So we've talked a lot about the sandworms of Dune, but how do they create the spice? Let's take a deep dive. I watched a lot of videos yesterday about these sandworms. Some really interesting that's in other Dune books and like compendiums, stuff written by Herbert himself. These worms feed on these phytoplanktonic creatures that also live in the sands of Arrakis. And it turns out that these phytoplanktonic creatures are just larval versions of the sandworms. So they're cannibals. And I had always heard that the worms create the spice, which is true, but not the way you think. It's not the adult gigantic worms that can grow to be 1,400 feet long, some of them even 3,000 feet long. It's the small ones. In the books, they call them little makers. They secrete what's called pre-spice. Over time, it builds up under the sands and creates gases the way that microbes do when they, for example, digest rotting vegetables, let's say. So these gases build up under the sands and eventually they explode into these geysers that kick up pre-spice. Over a short period of time of being exposed to like the high radiation from the sunlight on Arrakis, the pre-spice turns into spice, and it's just sitting there on the sand. And that was super interesting. Because these first two movies don't really talk about the specifics of how the spice is made. You just know it's on Arrakis. It's just in the sand, and it's made by the worms. And the other thing is that the little makers, they're not all guaranteed to grow to that huge size, and it's not necessarily because they're being predated by these giant worms. But they don't, even if they live a long time, they're not guaranteed to grow that big. It's only some of them. It's almost like the way that bees have biologically separated into like classes. Like, they have the worker bees, the queen.
There's the singing bee, the scholar bee, the bullshit bee, and the labor organizer bee. Rest in peace.